onto our top story now. The conflict between Israel and Hamas continues, with the death toll increasing on both sides. Many fear that this will end up in all-out war engulfing other countries as well.
Joining us now is Hamish De Bretton-Gordon, who is a former commanding officer in the British Army of the UK Chemical, Biological, Radiological and Nuclear Regiment. Hamish, in terms of where this goes now, Israel said it struck 750 military targets overnight. It is gearing up for a ground offensive. What next?
Well, I think as you've reported, we've heard that the Israelis have told just over 1 million Palestinians to move south out of northern Gaza, preparing the ground. This might sound like a humanitarian disaster, but I think it's probably, the only way that the Israelis can approach this. There are 30,000 Hamas terrorists hiding amongst 2 million Gazans, and there are also 150 Israeli hostages, which may well include Brits and Americans too. So it's a very difficult position. But if they empty the northern Gaza, and presumably Hamas will remain, they can swiftly move through there. And then when they allow the Palestinians back into northern Gaza, they will more easily be able to find the Hamas fighters. The other key thing is that the conflict doesn't extend. In the north, you've got Syria, who is Russia's proxy, and Russia wants focus on Gaza rather than its disastrous invasion in Ukraine. And in Lebanon, we have Hezbollah, another terrorist organization sponsored by the Iranians, who again want to get involved. So it's a really, really unpleasant and tricky time. And the Britons, by deploying a naval task force, I think that's a really positive thing in support of the Americans, again, to make the Russians and Iranians think twice about getting their proxies involved in this war.
And this is very much a developing situation. We have some breaking news now. The UK Foreign Office has urged people in Gaza City to follow an order to evacuate. Also, in terms of hostages, Defence Secretary Grant Shapps has said it seems very likely there are now British hostages in Gaza. At the end of the day here, Israel has been urged to show restraint. As you said, of course, it looks like there will be a ground offensive here. Israel is well within its rights to defend its sovereign territory, but caught in the middle of this are innocent people on both sides. Those people in Gaza desperate to get out of this dreadful situation where they have no power, no water, no medicines. They're being told to move. Also, just in terms of that area, there are so many people, 2 million people in a tiny landmass that are trying to converge on one part. It must be absolutely extraordinary to be there and to be living through this terrible, terrible situation.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, urban warfare is absolutely the most destructive and unpleasant environment to be in. Sadly, Hamas are acting like ISIS. I saw a lot of ISIS in Syria and Iraq over the last 10 years, and these people have absolutely no limits. And we've seen with the 1,300 Israelis that they've killed hitherto. And I think the Israeli approach to this is really the only way, where, as you say, in such a small area, 2 million people with 30,000 terrorists amongst them, it's absolutely clear that the Israelis are going to remove Hamas, be what may. But by protecting civilians, by moving them around, sadly, I mean, it does sound horrific, but I can't see any other way of doing it. Israel has massed up to 400,000 troops, which they'll all need to be able to get through and search everywhere to try and get the terrorists and remove them, but not create civilian casualties. If they just leveled the whole of Gaza and destroyed everything, there would be tens of thousands of casualties. It's really, really difficult, and nobody would wish it on anybody. And of course, before the invasion by Hamas, everybody thought things were going well and politics seemed to be working. But of course, Hamas, the terrorist organization, was building a picture that was happening so that they could catch people off guard. Sadly, the majority, I understand, Palestinians do not support Hamas, but have been held hostage by them rather than the Israelis. So, yeah, it's terrible, but unfortunately, war is terrible, and the sooner it's got over with, the better.
And Hamish, while we're talking to you, we're showing live pictures of the Israeli military preparations, columns of tanks amassing close to the border with Gaza in southern Israel. We also had the news yesterday of the British military deployment, spy planes and 2 Royal Naval ships to the region. What role will they play?
Well, absolutely. What you're seeing here is Merkava tanks and armoured personnel carriers getting in a position where they can support the infantry. Don't expect to see lots of tanks steaming around in Gaza, but they will be supporting from afar. As far as the British task force goes, it's very much what we call a show of force. It has a huge intelligence gathering capability, the aircraft and also the naval ships, and a marine company to provide them with what we call force protection. So supporting the American fleet that have also deployed to this area, I think it's a very strong message to the Russians who would like to see the Syrians get more involved, and also to the Iranians whose proxy Hamas, Hezbollah, want to get involved. And it's pretty clear also that the Hamas fighters that we saw on Saturday were very professionally and well trained, probably by Iranian militia or perhaps even Russian mercenaries. So, yeah, this is a comprehensive approach. And I think British military are doing absolutely the right thing to support, prevent this escalating any further in the region.
Well, Hamish De Bretton-Gordon, thank you very much.